Hello and welcome to another video of the Listdom Directory Plugin. In this video, we want to talk about the import and export process of the listings in the Listdom Directory Plugin. You can use different approaches to import your listings into Listdom. You can use JSON files, CSV files, or even Excel files to import, and you can also export your listings from Listdom using these formats. To use any of them, you may need some of the Listdom add-ons, and you can create custom import or export fields using the Listdom attributes or even the ACF plugin field. We're going to cover all of these topics in this video, so stay with us. If you have any questions, you can contact Listdom support. We'll be happy to help you with your directory site. Okay, to start the import or export process on your directory website, you need to open the Listdom menu. And under this menu, you can see the Import and Export sub-menu. Here we have three tabs: the JSON tab, the CSV tab, and the Excel tab. To use the JSON feature, you need the Listdom Pro Addon. For the CSV and Excel, you need two different add-ons called the Listdom CSV Addon and the Listdom Excel Addon. The CSV Addon covers all of the features and options that Excel has, and it even has more features. If you want to use Excel, which means using Microsoft Excel files and its functions, you can use the Excel add-on as well. Okay, let's start with the Listdom JSON file. You need to install and activate the Listdom Pro Addon to use the JSON feature. Now here we have two options, the export option and the import option. If you want to export your listings using a JSON file, you can easily click on the JSON button here, and the file will be downloaded and stored on your device. If you know how to edit a JSON file, you can easily do that and then import it back into Listdom or into any other directory site that accepts this kind of file. If you want to import your listings using this type of file, you can select the file by clicking on the Choose File option here. You can select your JSON file, and after it's uploaded, you can click on the Import button here. After a short while, you will see that all of the listings inside this JSON file are imported to your website. As you can see, we have a message here that states the import process has been completed successfully. I opened the listings menu, and here you can see that the sample listings I had inside the JSON file are imported, and all of their features like address, category, location, label, and other options available inside each of them are imported successfully. So the JSON files are really easy to use. You can easily export them if you know how to edit them. You can start editing them using different apps, and then you can import them to your website to import the listings. All of the listings will be imported using the JSON file. If you want to have more control in an easier way, you can use the CSV files generated by Microsoft Excel or other services like Google Sheets. You can use the Listdom Excel add-on, which is similar to CSV, but allows you to import files in formats like XLSX, which are dedicated to Microsoft Excel files. Okay, let's explore the options and features available in the CSV import process. To use the CSV option of the Listdom, first you need to install and activate the Listdom CSV add-on. After you've activated this add-on, you will see in the Import and Export menu a new tab called CSV. In this tab, there are four more options: Import, Mapping Templates, Auto Import, and Export. I'm going to explain each of these in detail. First, to use the CSV importer, you have to create your CSV file, meaning the file that includes your listings that you want to import into your new website built with Listdom. To do that, you need to create a spreadsheet file using any available app, and then you have to save it in CSV format. Let's see a sample file to understand how to arrange the columns to fit the CSV importer for the listings. As you can see here, we have a sample CSV file that you can use to import your listings into the listing website. If you want to create this kind of file, it's really easy. You have to put each of your listings in a single row, and each characteristic and option of this listing should be inserted into a separate column. For example, we have the ID of each listing, the title, description, date, owner, and other options that are available in the Listdom listings. If your file was exported from the old website using another process, another plugin, you have to modify your CSV file as I described. Then you have to import it into the website, and I will show you how to assign each of these columns to the built-in fields of the listings so that the data will be displayed correctly on the website. As I mentioned, you can create your CSV file, then select the file to start importing it to your site. Before continuing, I want to remove the listings that were imported via the JSON file so that you can see that the new listings are going to be imported via the CSV file more clearly. Currently, we don't have any listings on this website. I get back to the Import and Export menu. With the Listdom CSV Importer and Exporter add-on, you can easily import classifieds to your listing website with just a few clicks. This add-on simplifies the process of extending your online listing and classifieds website by allowing you to import listings in bulk. In the import section, you can select your CSV file, match the fields with the default fields, and finally click on the import button to carry out the import process. Let's choose the CSV file that we want to import. As you can see here, we have several options and the main table is displayed. I'm going to explain it to you. When the file is uploaded, these sections will be displayed. We have a table to map the Listdom default fields with the columns of the uploaded CSV file. The first column of this table is the Listdom fields. These are the default fields of Listdom, for example, title, price tags, categories, and the required fields are marked with a red star next to them. As we progress, I will explain the most important fields in detail, highlighting their significance and the key points to consider during the import. It is possible to import the custom fields that exist in the file, but you need to do some extra work. I will discuss the custom fields in detail later. The second column is the type. These are the types of fields, for example, text, number, and email. The next column is mapping. This is the most important part of this table. The columns of the uploaded CSV file must be assigned to Listdom fields one by one. These are the names of the columns in the first row of the CSV file. You can select each of them and assign them to one of the Listdom fields. This process is called mapping. You have to map each column to the current Listdom field. Try to map the fields as accurately as possible and only map the correct fields to avoid corrupted data after import. Only the mapped column of the file will be imported. Finally, we have the default value. Here you can insert a default value for some fields if your CSV file does not contain a value. For example, you can select USD in the currency section. If your CSV file does not contain the value of the currency, then for each listing where the currency is not determined, USD will be used. Now let's talk about the Listdom fields. These are the most important fields you should know before using this app. Here we have a unique ID. It's required if you want to update the listings later. This means if you import your listings and then want to import them again, you must have a column in your file called the ID. If you don't map it, Listdom tries to update the existing listing with the same title and content. The listing title is the most important field in this process. As you see, it is required, and if it is not mapped or the value is empty in the file, then the listings won't be imported and will be skipped. Regarding the listing owner, if a new value is available in the CSV file that doesn't already exist on the website, the CSV add-on will create a new entity based on the value inside the listing. For example, if the user you're importing does not exist on the site, then the user will be created and assigned to the listing. Here we have the listing status. The status field stores different statuses of the listing, including publish, draft, trash, pending, expired, on hold, and offline. The default value is public. Additionally, we have 5 taxonomies available for listings: the listing category, location, tag, feature, and label. And as I told you about the listing owner, if you have a value, for example, in the locations for a listing, you have New York in your CSV file, but New York does not exist on this current website, then New York will be created and added to the locations of Listdom and also assigned to the listing. The same process will happen for all of these 5 taxonomies. Remember about the feature image. You have to put the URL in your file, and the URL should be there. For the listing gallery, you need to know that the URLs of the images should be separated by commas. The same applies to any other cell or column that has multiple values. All of the values should be separated by commas. As we continue down, you can see other available fields. We have some fields called attribute fields that I will talk about later. The attributes are custom fields added by the Listdom Pro Addon, and you can also use ACF to add custom fields, and we'll discuss that. Finally, the last row of this table is called the visibility field, and this field is added by the Listdom Visibility Addon. You can set a visibility period and date for each. The visibility option will be available on the Add Listing form, and you can set the date in your file and import it, and it will work as expected. Note that the visibility field is only available in the Listdom Visibility Add-on, and you should use that add-on to add this feature to your listing and directory website. The next option I want to show you is the mapping name, which is available here. You can save the mapping as a template by inserting the name during the import, so you can apply the saved template later and save time. You can change the name here, and then this mapping style will be saved for later use. As you can see, we have the load template feature. If you've already saved some mapping templates before, then you can apply them by selecting them from the drop-down field. For example, here we have the full mapping template. You need to assign each column from the imported file to an existing field in the mapping table. Custom fields cannot be created directly within the file and then imported into the site. Instead, you must first create the fields in the site. This allows them to be included in the mapping table. For example, here we have email field attributes and ACF fields. And once the fields are set up, you can map and import the relevant columns into the site. I will talk about the attributes in ACF later. The mapping templates that you have saved will be stored in the Mapping Templates tab. If you click on this, you can see that I have saved a template called Full Mapping Template, and the date and time that I created it are shown here, and you can remove it by clicking on the Remove button. The next step I want to talk about is the auto import, which is one of the most powerful features of the Listdom CSV Addon. Using this feature, you can create a CSV file, maybe an online CSV file using Google Sheets. And by updating the Google Sheet, your whole directory website and listings will be updated automatically. We have several fields here, and here we have the feed URL. This field should contain the URL leading to the CSV file from which you want to import the data. The next field is the field mapping. Here you can select the mapping template that you want the file to be mapped by. The next option is the interval. Here you can determine how often the data should be updated and imported: weekly, daily, twice a day, or hourly. Finally, we have the import size, which sets a limit for the maximum number of listings to be imported during each run of the import. This is a good option to manage the resources of your host, because your website hosting resources may not be powerful enough to handle a large number of listings on each run. So you can decrease the amount here to avoid your site from crashing. Finally, we have the export tab here that you can easily click on to get the CSV file of your website listings, and the file will be the same as the CSV file I showed you before. Now let's continue our work by discussing the Excel add-on, and afterward I will explain how you can create and insert custom fields into your website using the ACF and Listdom attributes. The Excel tab is exactly the same as the CSV tab, except that the auto import option is not available. Here, you have only the import, the mapping template, and the export options. For example, in the import option, if I choose to select a file, I will select this Excel file. As you can see here, we have the load template, the mapping name, and also the mapping table. The functionality is the same as the CSV add-on, and everything I mentioned about the CSV add-on applies here too. Let's review the custom fields and the process of adding them to our listings. We will also see how we can import them using different methods that we've discussed so far. Here you can see one of the demos of the Listdom, specifically designed for the real estate directories. If you want, you can import this using the Listdomer theme and use a trial period. After that, if you wish to continue using it, you can purchase it. You can see here that we have several custom fields for this property, which is a sample house for sale on a real estate directory website. We have the area, the bedroom count, the number of beds, garage details, and so on. These fields are not typically available in directory plugins or even in Listdom because they are tailored specifically for a real estate directory. General plugins usually do not include such data like categories, locations, tags, labels, or other taxonomies. Therefore, if you want to include this kind of data, you must create custom fields for your listings. It is possible to add custom fields to your listings as well as to the CSV file or the Excel file that you want to import into Listdom. There are two methods available for adding custom fields to the listings. The first method involves the attributes available in the Listdom Pro Addon. The menu is accessible under the Listings section. You can see we have some pre-built attributes, each of which can have a specific type. For example, if you want to create a new attribute, you can set a name for it and select the field type. It can be a text, number, email, URL, drop-down, text area, or a separator. The separator is only displayed on the back end and is used to separate fields for better management and organization. You can also check the required mark, which ensures that each listing must be filled out. Yeah, if you turn on the Compare button available in the Listdom Compare add-on, this field will also be included in the Compare table. We have additional options like the icon, the index, and other features that you can use to improve your attributes. The icon is displayed in some of the styles, and the index is an arbitrary number that helps to remind the order of the fields related to others. This will change the order and position of the field. Finally, we have the schema property here. It's important to note that the schema property is displayed in the Listdom Pro Addon. If you can see all of the features here, it's because I have activated all of the Listdom add-ons for this website. However, there is another way to include custom fields into your website. You can use the ACF plugin. ACF, or Advanced Custom Fields, is a popular plugin that allows users to add custom fields to WordPress post types. Listdom has a fantastic integration with this plugin. To utilize this feature, you'll need the Listdom ACF add-on, and you can create custom fields. For example, here I have created ACF fields, and these fields using the Listdom ACF add-on will be displayed on each listing. You can enter the value for them, but don't forget to set the rule. The post type should be equal to listings, so the fields will be displayed inside the listings. Now, let's get back to the import and export menu. For example, in the CSV section, you can see that if I choose a CSV file, in the mapping table, we have all of the attribute fields that have been created. These are all the attribute fields, and from here, from the ACF text, these are all the ACF fields that we have created on the site. So if you want to have some custom fields added to Listdom, first you have to create those fields on the website using one of the two methods that I mentioned. Then you have to create a corresponding column on your CSV file or Excel file. And finally, you have to map that column to the selected field, and it will be imported to your website successfully. About the JSON files, all of the fields will be imported and exported, but you cannot directly modify them here on the site as you can do for CSV or Excel files. In this video, we just talked about different methods and approaches to importing the listings into Listdom. We discussed JSON files as well as CSV and Excel files. To use these, you have to utilize different add-ons of Listdom. Finally, using these features and other fantastic features of Listdom, you can create beautiful directory websites like the one you can see here. It's a sample website for the directory of real estate listings and is available in the Listdomer theme. If you want, you can start using it for free. If you have any questions about what we talked about in this video, feel free to contact Listdom support. We're here to help you. Goodbye.